So, yes, thank you, Nina. Good memory. I always forget to record. So, I am Christy Bryce. I'm with Kentucky Abry, and our team supports schools and districts across the state around special education processes. And currently, we've been working closely with those CCEIS districts, which are identified for some disproportionate practices. And then we also have a big video library. So maybe one of my teammates can share our cybers.com link with you. On this library, we have excellent videos. It's an ongoing, growing library. In fact, this semester, I'm super excited. We have Karen Holland and Dr. Tessie Bailey with the Progress Center, a national center through IES that are joining us in the development of those modules. So it's really some exciting stuff. Karen, you can also plug in the chat, maybe some upcoming videos that we're super excited about in development currently. So, okay, just at least the topics. All right, I'm going to jump in because we are so excited to be here today. And I promise, whoops, I'm just sharing a window after all, so we'll see how this works. I promise to do my best to keep this we're all busy people. We want to keep it succinct, to the point, impactful, and meaningful. So that is what my goal is for this next hour to hour and a half, but we'll probably get out early. Okay, so we have Mexican night with the family to celebrate a birthday. So you know we can't be late for our chips and salsa. So let's jump in here. Hopefully you've been able to access the digital agenda, which looks like this guy. And on here, you'll see the goals of our conversation this afternoon. But then when I only have an hour or so with people, I love to share some of my favorite links that connect to the topic. So you'll see this first row here is around many of these you're probably familiar with, such as Conmigo, the Question AI, DFID, Magic School. These are being used across the state. So some common AI teacher-friendly, student-friendly types of resources, along with just a heads up, KDE does have an AI in Kentucky guidance document, and then a couple of just really quick reads on how AI can help us as educators. But then in the second row, you'll see the NotebookLM specific links. And so when I've been doing a lot of presenting on scaffolding these last few years because I feel really passionate about the power that if we scaffold instruction, then we can give students access to high level learning despite some of the barriers that they have around literacy or attention and things like that. And so when I've done this, I've shared resources that were AI related, and feedback I would receive was like, those are great, but like, I don't exactly know what to do with them. So that's why I've decided to narrow the focus a bit. I'm sprinkling some of these general AI tools for you, but then we're going to dig deep specifically into NotebookLM. And if you're not familiar with NotebookLM, prepared for just prepare for your mind to be blown this afternoon. So that's how stinking cool it is. So in fact, I'm curious if you would in the chat, give me a 1 to 5 of where you are in your, let's do AI to support education first. 1 being like, I've heard of AI as a thing, and 5 being I'm using AI in the development of my lessons and to give me feedback on how to differentiate in class, things like that. So where are you 1 to 5 with your use of AI? Perfect. Got some people using it. Awesome. Let's do the same now. I'm going to change that up to, and this is a judgment-free zone, so it's okay if you're not doing these things. 1 to 5 for using NotebookLM. There may be people in here that have a lot more expertise than I do. I've just completely nerded out these past like 6 months with podcast and playing with it and downloading and doing all kinds of cool stuff. So perfect. I love it. My audience is the right one. So I'm excited to share with you what I've learned, and I think you really find it helpful in the work that you all do. And then we will be referring to these outputs from NotebookLM, and I'll be sharing those with you as we go through this afternoon. So that's the plan. All right, so let's jump on in here. And if you would, one of the teammates here, go ahead and keep adding the sign in and the digital agenda to the chat in case we have new people join, and make sure they have access to that. So AI-powered scaffold, specifically focusing on NotebookLM. All right, so everything you're going to see this afternoon is AI generated, starting with this image. And so tell me, this is the classroom of my day. And I think this is a small enough group. I think we could even try just to call out, but you're welcome to use the chat or unmute. What kinds of things do you notice about this classroom?
The chalkboard, VCR, TV.
Yes, the chalkboard. Anybody remember like beating the erasers outside? The VCR, the rolly cart they used to roll in the TV. Some of you are probably not young enough or too young to even remember these things. Tell me about the students and how you see them in the design of the classroom.
They're in rows facing forward.
And look at those rigid desks. They do not look very mobile and inviting to collaborative conversations. And so this was the classroom of the 20th century. And so I guess the question is, are we still giving 20th century activities and assignments and blaming the current technology for why those assignments are no longer working? When instead we have to start shifting to 21st century tasks, shifting away from rote memory and those kinds of activities to more active learning, collaborative learning, and critical analysis of the learning. So to help us do this is the great news. We're in this AI revolution. We have unprecedented opportunities to lean on these tools to help guide us. They're like a 24/7 instructional coach. And so it's really impactful to us as educators. We can seek out resources that in the past we had to all manually like develop. And I can remember if I ever found a website that had differentiated or like leveled literacy materials, I was just so excited. And now we have those things at the tips of our fingers. And I always have to, anytime we talk AI, we have to be sure to mention things such as privacy, understanding your district policies around the use of technology like AI, and also being very cautious about understanding that they're biased. And for example, my daughter, we laugh about, AI has become a lot of our therapist. And so I'm like, just remember the AI is always going to lean into you and like support your thoughts and the things that you do and believe. And so we have to be critical. And even though this is a great tool, we need our teacher brains to critically analyze these tools and the responses and the outputs they're giving us to make sure that that's meaningful in the way it needs to be, as well as just straight up hallucinations. We had a colleague, we did some AI generated caricatures of each of us, and boy, one just went off the rails. And at one point, AI even apologized to her and said, "You're right. That's not descriptive of you." Like it was literally hallucinating. So that's just kind of wacky. And we've probably all had our own individual experiences of being tripped out by something that it says or does. So we have to use our caution when utilizing these tools. So tell me this, anybody on here using some of these AI specific tools for education? If so, if you don't care to unmute and share how you're using that or how you've seen teachers using that.
So at CKEC, when we're training on IEP writing, we're using Magic School to and using the standards unpacker
Mhm.
because our teachers have a hard time understanding what the KAS what they even mean, and so we'll put a standard in there, and it'll just help them unpack and tell them like the skills that are needed for it and what to do with it, and you can ask it anything, of course, and
Yeah.
ask for help with writing IEP goals and all of that.
Okay, perfect. Anybody using Diffit? Your teachers are using Diffit. I can tell you this. I know a lot of us here are in roles that are more consultant based, but that is a highly used tool in many classrooms now across the state. And the thing that these tools can provide are ideas for like with the right prompt. And if you've used AI, you're aware of the fact that your prompt matters and the specificity of your prompt matters. And so with the right prompt, you could even get to the point like, give me ways to differentiate this lesson for on this content for a student in this grade level who is scoring at this level on WIDA. So like you have a multilingual learner, for example. And so there's some beautiful resources out there that teachers can lean into. But I understand this feeling of like, I'm also overwhelmed because there's so many things out there and I don't really know what to do with them. So that's why we're just selecting one, NotebookLM, to dig deeper into today. All right, so there we go, NotebookLM. It is a Google product. I will say that it's relatively new. Would not be surprised if it later becomes there a cost associated with it. Right now it is free and all the tools within it are free. There's not like a basic version and a expensive version. But I wonder how long that will take. The great news is they do not use information that you uploaded. The privacy is strong. This privacy features. They do not use the information that you upload into NotebookLM to train their other AI models, which is one example of how they protect the privacy. But of course, I think there's many ways to utilize these tools without ever entering any kind of student identifying information. So when I keep it very content specific, so that way I feel very safe about what I am sharing with the AI model. But as always, know your district policy. All right. But one of the things I've been learning about when you start out with generative AI and this built on these patterns and these trends that also have flaws in them, so that's why it has flaws in it. The great news, this is honestly the reason that I think I started with NotebookLM. The strength of NotebookLM is that it's what you call a grounded AI model. So for example, I've created this image, this AI image, because I made this computer grounded, meaning that it's like a child that's grounded. You can't move, you have to stay there. And that's how NotebookLM works. It has to remain where you put it. So when you upload your content into NotebookLM, it does not go and search the internet unless you open it up to do that. So you stay in full control of the content that it is pulling from. So the way I have used NotebookLM is to protect it from going out into the internet, searching for all these other things. I upload the content I select, and then that's all it pulls from to create these outputs to help you for me, differentiate instruction in a classroom. So let's keep going. You'll see what I mean by that in a second. NotebookLM can create these things on the left. These are example of the outputs. So you put your content in. So let's say you're like a 5th grade physics teacher, or so, well, maybe not physics, science teacher, and you're studying the water cycle. Then perhaps you have a slide deck on the water cycle. Maybe you have a PDF from your science textbook. Maybe you have a couple of YouTube videos or a website link to National Geographic. You have very controlled content that you trust. So you're not out just searching the internet for random things. So you would upload those into that notebook. You can create as many notebooks, separate notebooks as you'd like. And from that content, you can create an audio overview that basically uses all of those resources, a video overview, a mind map, flashcards, quiz, slide decks, things like that. And you can add these prompts to create the type of document you want. So what I have emphasized is using my content and creating outputs. But NotebookLM can be designed so that you put your students on that, you share that notebook with students. And then basically students have this whole conversational tutor in which they can ask questions about the content, and it only pulls from the content you provided, and it can teach that content through the tutoring feature. So you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. I'm still giving you this like introduction before we dig into it. Let me look and see if there's any. You can upload up to like 50 sources, any YouTube links that have closed captioning available, any websites, any PDFs, any Google Slides, any PowerPoint decks. All of these types of sources are acceptable. So as we're going through these next few minutes, I want you to be thinking in your mind, what is something that I could, because you're going to create your first notebook here in a few minutes, what is some content? If you're a trainer, maybe your content, so like for example, my content for you all is scaffolding. using NotebookLM to scaffold. So I'm going to be sharing resources, outputs on that topic from the content I've uploaded. But your content might be the water cycle and all those resources. Your content, I was so in awe with this program, I've shared with my daughter and her boyfriend and my husband. So for example, my husband's world, he works with government affairs. And Chris is not into reading. Like, he opens text and he'll say things like too many words. So he said, well, I've got this New Jersey bill that I don't understand everything that says that they're going to be changing. So I uploaded the New Jersey bill. I just went to the internet, found the New Jersey bill, downloaded the PDF, or you could even copy it and paste it. And I had it create a podcast on that New Jersey bill. So it summarized for him what all was happening. That was his content, the New Jersey bill. And my daughter's in neuroscience at Xavier, and so she will upload her chemistry text for that unit, and will use study guides and things like that from what she's uploaded. So it is grounded. It stays within that content. Okay. With the goal of creating a classroom of today, how would you all describe this classroom? What kinds of things do you notice about this image?
They all have technology in front of them.
Technology. So hopefully we have some offline and online learning happening within classrooms. What else is different?
They're grouped together where they can collaborate more.
Exactly. So it's a collaborative model. You see the teacher standing more as a facilitator rather than this projector of all knowledge. She's moving around the classroom and creating these like personalized supports through all of these rich tools. So, okay, let's hop over here now. So let me first introduce you to what you will see when you start your own notebook, okay? This is basically your home page of NotebookLM. And when you first open this up, this little box right here is going to populate. And it's saying, hey, do you want to search the web for new sources? I prefer not to do that. I prefer to keep control of my resources. So this is where I can upload files. And like I named mine scaffolding, so that my notebook's going to be on scaffolding. It could be on the water cycle if that was your content, for example. And you upload files that you've downloaded. You add links to websites. You pull from your Google Drive. You straight up copy. If you have a website that maybe prevents bots from accessing, which NotebookLM is a bot, it may not allow you to just upload that website or add that link to that website. So you may just copy and paste from that website if that's something you wanted. And then once you've done that, so over here are the 5 resources I have uploaded. Then that's saying anything it creates is built on these 5. I could even uncheck it and say, all right, don't use this one. But these are the 5 resources. And from that, you hop over here to the studio. Hang on, I have too many tabs open. I'm having to squish this in a little. You hop over here to the studio, and it asks you which one you want to create. An audio, an AI podcast, generate an explainer video, a mind map, reports, flashcards, quiz, infographics, slide decks, data tables. Now notice, let's say I want to create a slide deck, and I'm going to show you an example of one. If I click this edit icon right here, I get to control what I want out of this slide deck. So for example, I wanted a short one. I wanted it in English. It does have up to 50 languages available on NotebookLM. And then I would list here, create a slide deck on this content, but make it at the 3rd grade level, for example, and generate. And then let me show you examples now. Let's share over this other window of what kinds of outputs this creates. So for example, and these are linked towards the bottom of your digital agenda if you want to click around on your own. So this is, let's start. I said, created an infographic. So literally I uploaded those 5 documents, and within about 4 minutes, this infographic was created using that content. So you can see, whoa, hang on. Let me jump out of there we go. So you can see it has developed, took the content and created an infographic just on that content. And then here's an example of the video explaining that content. I'm going to let this play through here for just a second. So this is an example of a video developed by NotebookLM.
Support for new skills. You provide that support when it's needed, and then you take it away once they've got it. So how can busy teachers build these scaffolds easily? Well, that's where NotebookLM comes in. It's an AI assistant from Google that turns your teaching materials into different formats on demand. And here's where it gets really interesting. Its features perfectly align with scaffolding techniques. And the best part? It's a super simple 3-step process that anyone can do. For instance, you could turn a tough science article or a history chapter into an instant podcast. This gives students a choice in how they learn, whether it's by reading or by listening. Or take your lecture notes. NotebookLM can instantly create study guides and FAQ sheets from them.
All right, so, and I think I had that sped up a little bit. So this is so meta. Like, I'm having NotebookLM create the video on how NotebookLM can scaffold. Here is an example of the study guide that it created for me. So AI in education and instructional scaffolding with key terminology. I mean, literally, guys, I put create study guide, and it was 3 minutes, and this is what it created. Here is, I love this example. So I asked it to put this content into a 3rd grade level slide deck and then a 12th grade level slide deck. So this is the same content. So check out, first of all, obviously you have the difference in the images. So let me show you just the intro to the 12th grade. Check that out. So how different it made the images for the different grade level. But then you also see how the vocabulary is different. So it's describing scaffolding using 3rd grade level vocabulary. And so I did not give analogies like this, like it creates the analogies on its own. All right, so now let's look at the 12th grade version. You see really significant differences in the images and the vocabulary. NotebookLM is also very good about including its sources. So right there it says, based on Catlin Tucker's analysis of classroom barriers, that was one of the resources that I uploaded. So this is the 12th grade version of the summary of the content in a slide deck. And so when I've done this session now with some teachers, to me, the most obvious use of NotebookLM is around any kind of literacy scaffolds, period. But like, I think it's especially powerful for content areas, science and social studies, for example, because you can pretty easily bring that content over. So I've struggled a little, like, how could it be used for math? And I had some teachers in there and they're like, oh, we're all over this. So one teacher, she uploaded her unit on, yes, exponents into NotebookLM. And from that, it created this slide deck on the content. And what was so cool about this is it gave examples of common mistakes, for example. And she loved that those kinds of things were automatically created by just uploading her content. Now, obviously, again, your teacher brain is going to have to read this closely, make sure there are no flaws or errors, bias, hallucinations. The grounded model is less likely to hallucinate, but it still could. And then finally, so I wanted to give you that kind of like idea of what the outputs can be like. Now here's where it really gets mind-blowing. You think that's not cool enough. I had it create a podcast. Honestly, I think the podcast is probably the best feature. And so let's say you didn't have time to read, but there's something you need to be learning about, like some of these House bills that are rolling through that you want to understand better that are around special education. You could upload those here and then create the podcast, which is the audio. And I want to show you what the podcast looks like in action. You can even do this. Let's say you have students log in, because you could like, one way to do it is you could download it as an MP3 player, but you can also use the interactive mode on the podcast. And watch this go down. You ready for this? First of all, I will never listen to podcasts again without questioning whether or not they are AI generated. Like, I will trust no one now. So this is literally created with just the content that I uploaded, and within 4 minutes, this is what was created. We're going to listen to this for a couple minutes.
Okay, so I want you to visualize something for me. Picture a massive building under construction.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely wrapped in that steel grid of pipes and, wooden platforms, scaffolding.
Right.
That structure, it gives workers stable footing, guardrails. It lets them reach heights that would be, physically impossible on their own.
It's a really powerful image. And today we're taking that exact metaphor and applying it to the classroom. We're talking about instructional scaffolding.
And based on the research we're looking at, scaffolding isn't just a buzzword for, helping students. It seems to be a very specific kind of architecture.
It is. And the most crucial part of your whole construction metaphor is that the scaffolding is temporary.
Right.
You don't leave those steel pipes up forever. The whole point is to support the student while they build the skill. And then, and this is the tricky part, you systematically dismantle that support so they can stand on their own.
That temporary part, though, that creates a lot of tension, because if you look at the data in our source material, specifically the 2019 NEEP results, the stakes are just incredibly high.
Yeah, they really are.
They found that 66% of U.S. students read below grade level. I mean, that's 2/3.
It's a staggering number. And when a teacher sees a student struggling that much, the natural instinct, I think, for a lot of us is to lower the bar.
Sure.
Oh, hey there, how can we help?
Yeah, I have a question. Thanks for letting me join. I have a question. How is scaffolding applicable for high school?
What a fantastic question, and thanks for jumping in.
That's a great interjection, because the entire conversation about instructional scaffolding, especially given that 2/3 of students are below grade level, is highly relevant to high school.
Absolutely. The documents we're looking at specifically address K-12, but if you look at the examples, they're perfect for high school content areas.
Think about social studies, for instance. High school teachers upload complex primary source documents, right? The language is dense, the context is missing.
Yes, like if they're reading something from the 1800s.
Exactly. The source suggests using NotebookLM to create a summary or an advance organizer from those texts.
That summary acts as a literacy.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Oh, wait, I have another question. Why is my friend so dumb?
Oh, that's a big question.
That is a big question.
And we really appreciate you feeling comfortable enough to ask us anything.
We truly do.
But, we're not psychologists or counselors.
Right. And while we love talking about how people learn, we can't really comment on your friend's personal intelligence.
That said, it does give us a perfect moment to unpack what our sources say about intelligence itself.
What's fascinating here is that the sources acknowledge many ways to define intelligence.
Okay, so I have to include that because what would a middle or high school kid do? They would totally ask some kind of completely irreverent question. So I was trying to stump this guy. Like, that was the interactive feature that we just experienced there, which is, again, mind-blowing, because it also picked out a piece based on the question I just asked and to specifically discuss that. But then when I tried to take it off in this kind of random like tangent, it pretty quickly brought it back to the content. So I really wanted you to experience what that's like. But even without getting students into the program, you can always just download the podcast, and they could, for example, do a classroom walk. So let's say our content today is, I had a teacher say, we're right now reading The Great Gatsby. It's terrible. My kids with have lower literacy skills are dying. So I'm going to put Great Gatsby in here, and create these podcasts that summarize the chapter. And we talked about how she could do a classroom walk. So, all right, it's a beautiful day out today. We're going to put in our whatever like player that you may have access to, for example, an MP3 player, with audio. And we're going to walk around the building one time and listen to our podcast on the Great Gatsby. So those are just a few examples of what is possible with this resource. And before I let you start playing, I want to demonstrate one more thing for you. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. So when you go, this is your home button to the top left. And you can see like this is the notebook that I'm working on. I've had other notebooks. Just a heads up, it's really easy to delete a notebook and then it's gone forever. So don't do that. But here is the scaffolding notebook we've been working out of. When you first start this, as I mentioned, here's the add sources here to your left, but this is how yours is going to open. It's immediately going to open here. If you start searching the web, that's searching the web. So it's only, again, you're opening yourself up to what other information you're grabbing from the internet. I personally want to make sure I've vetted whatever I'm adding as my content. So I have, for example, found this New York State. They have a lot of great resources, and specifically around scaffolding. So here's a New York State Department slide deck on scaffolding, especially around multilingual learners. And it gives, what scaffolding is and what the, ideas for scaffolding, things like that. So I have downloaded this because that is a very reputable source. And I'm going to upload files. So from my downloads, I select this, and that is currently adding it. And I will see it as another piece of content to the left here. And then once I'm ready to create something, I can select which items I want and go to create that. So I have talked enough, and I wanted to give you that overview and introduction. So this is what I challenge you to do. In fact, that is really all of the presentation. I would challenge you to open another tab. Just keep us over here on the side. In fact, I may just play some music or whatever. And I'm going to share a slide that's going to guide you through the steps to creating a notebook, your first notebook. And then if you have questions, pop those in the chat. And then I would love some share out and some reflections after you have created this yourself. So that's what we're doing right now is to, we're going to follow these directions. One second, let me pull that back up. Follow these directions right here, and you can open a new tab and try to create your first notebook. You will need to upload some kind of content or website or YouTube link. So choose something that either you want to learn more about or pretend like you're a teacher and you want to create that for your students, and try to create your first notebook. You'll need to then select in the studio what you're creating, and it takes a few minutes, especially for audio and video. It can take up to 3 to 5 minutes to create. And you guys check back in with me and let me know what you've done.
It's as simple as something that nobody knows it. Her eyes are as big as her bubbly toes. On the feet of a queen of the hearts of the gods, and her feet are all covered with tar balls and scars. It's a common as something that nobody knows it. Her beauty will follow wherever she goes. Up the hill in the back of her house in the wood. She loved me forever, I know she could. I remember when you and me, how we used to be, just good friends, wouldn't give me none, but all I wanted was some. much time to waste. Dreams are like commercials, but her dreams are picture perfect, and our dreams are so related, though they're often underestimated. Simple as something that nobody knows. Her eyes are as big as a bubbly toes. On the feet of a queen of the hearts of the car. Feet are infested with tar balls. And la da 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 da. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. I was eating lunch at the DLG when this little girl came and she sat next to me. Never seen nobody move the way she did. Well, she did and she does, and she'll do it again. When you move like a jellyfish, rhythm don't mean nothing. You go with the flow, you don't stop. Move like a jellyfish, rhythm is nothing. You go with the flow, you don't stop. It's coming to something that nobody knows, and the beauty will follow wherever she goes. Up the hill in the back of a house in the woods. She loved me forever, I know. She la da 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 da. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. La da 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 da.
So I have a question with the
Yeah.
slides. I saw where you could download a PowerPoint, but it's just like the whole graphic is the slide. So is there a way to edit?
So that is something I meant to say. You're going to find flaws in this process. You're going to find things that you're going to be very frustrated about that it does not yet do, a feature that it does not yet have. That's one of them. And there are numerous others I have run across. And so what I will say is it is a relatively new program, and I have seen them push out some really massive updates. And so I'm hoping, and our teacher brain is especially going to pick out some things like, oh, I need to do this, or I wish it would do this. So, but no, you're exactly right. There are some things that it does not yet do. Like, for example, the mind map, you have to utilize while you're in the program. That's another example. And so some of the download features don't work as well, in my opinion, because of the difficulty with editing. I have gone back through, and if you use the edit icon, the pencil icon, you could make changes there, but it's going to change the whole thing. So yeah, so that I would say that's a problem with it, in my opinion, right now.
She's got it all figured out. She knows what everything's about.
If anyone else has created an output, I'd love to hear about it.
Anybody doubts her or sing songs without her?
Christy,
Yeah.
I created one. The infographic, I just uploaded 3 sources from autism. Just, empowering autistic learners in the classroom. And it created a nice infographic that just has almost like you could hang up in a classroom. Support you can see, empowering autistic learners in the classroom. And it made a very nice graphic. Let me see if I can put that in the chat. I don't know if I can copy that site if it will show it, but I will try.
Yeah, it probably won't, but that's a shame. I'd love to see it. Oh, let's see. So I guess the access just has to be opened.
Oh, sorry, I was talking to you. Try it again.
Oh, okay.
Well, I said anyone with a link could do it, but let me get out of it, go back in.
I'm curious as to what content others are uploading, or what content you can think of that teachers might upload. That's all right. We're still troubleshooting.
I'll say I did an infographic and slide deck for functional listening evals. It doesn't really apply to anyone else here, but
To functional what?
listening evaluation, like
That's
how
right.
we
You were
help
with
qualify.
Yeah.
So it gave a good like just visual of like how far away you need to be from a student, what the sound should be. Pretty good for like new teachers maybe to go along with it, just a glimpse.
Or families.
Mhm.
And of course, you could add those kinds of things in the prompt too. Maybe like design this to be family friendly, or so I worked with teachers and they were doing things such as if they used a particular HMH product, or they were having to sign in and they'll have to be able to download their content. And some programs allow that and some don't. So that'd be the only issue, is if what they're using they don't have access to outside of that particular program. But yeah, I don't know why, Karen. It's still being stubborn. That's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
But can't you imagine this, especially for high school and studying for a test, for example? I mean, I just see such possibility, especially for our. Um, I would love, Katie, to keep picking your brain about, because that's certainly not, hearing impaired is not an area I have expertise, and so how it could be utilized for those students, but also for our, I'm imagining multilingual students, or our students who are, I'm often a big advocate for our low readers, whether or not you have an IEP in middle school and high school, because I know that they function every day in really difficult content areas. There it is, Karen, looks good. So it's such a tool that I want to push out. I want to get out to these content teachers to help support those students. And in fact, I'm taking this to Behavior Institute because that's how powerful I think it could be to even reduce behaviors if a student had access to difficult text. And actually, we'll start with giving them some background about the level of readers in their classroom. And the need is great for these kinds of strategies to be utilized, even for those students without an IEP.
So, Christy, I dropped a link in there of a Google slide deck that I had it made.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about how to write a like Kentucky IEP guidance document is what I used, and just some other resources that I had, like a slide deck of my own that I had made. And well, I like it better than I like my own. I just think
it's really cool. I like it too. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you look at it, it looks really good. Way to go, NotebookLM.
And I love how it brings
Yeah,
in,
look at it. Yeah.
how it brings in other features, like it uses its mind or whatever to generate like the visuals that go with it. It's like, it's not just, that's another thing about the podcast. Like when we use text to speech software that is often very monotone and just read word for word, where the podcast, could you guys believe how engaging that was? And even when I asked a question and I went in and had them change the podcast to, okay, emphasize this more and this less. Well, it just created a new podcast that was on the same content, but took it down a different route. So It's just mind blowing, honestly.
And just like the graphics that it makes, like I would love to make those graphics, but I'm not a graphic designer.
Mhm.
And so, but that's really good. So, yeah, cool.
And in
Awesome.
our future sessions, this series that we're providing by Kentucky Avery is all about leveraging AI to improve student behavior. And in future sessions, one of which will be Nina Ingram will be sharing ways. In fact, Nina, why don't you summarize what you're going to be covering?
Jenny Hogg and I, Jenny's with KEDC, and she and I will be talking about Google Gemini and how that we can support students. And there's all kinds of different, and actually when Jenny was showing me some of the features that was in there, I had no clue that they were even available. One of the features that I'll highlight just real quick is the guided learning that's in there. And it doesn't just give the students the answers, it guides them through and helps them understand, what it is. So that's coming up on March the 10th at 4 o'clock. We'd love to have you join us.
Nina, will you be sharing ideas at that one, or maybe that's later, we'll get that at Karen's or something, on how you can create the visuals for like charts in the classroom, for example? Will that be covered in your session?
I think it will be. I think Jenny
Like-
and I talked
Like
about that.
social skills,
Yeah, social
explicit
stories, and yes,
social stories.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just
we're-
like you were saying, I think Kim, you were the one saying this about the images, for example, that are created. So yes, visual support generation. Thank you, Jenny, for giving us the
right.
word. So how it can create, back in the day when all of us used to have to use Board Maker and create these things, and then I wouldn't have a license to Board Maker and they couldn't sign in and all the things. And so the fact that you can AI generate these things now and they're flawed. Sometimes, the kid may have 7 fingers or whatever. So like you've got to keep working with it and massaging it and changing the prompt and whatever. But it is amazing how much time it can save, especially those educators like us that have been around long enough that we remember with life without these kinds of tools. Anybody else want to share, Erica or Anna, any other thoughts or reflections?
My mind is just blown. And the infographic is amazing.
Did you create one on behavior, I'm guessing?
I created one on restorative practices,
Mm-hmm.
and I put in a video and a slide deck and an article, and amazing. Amazing.
And Erica, I see yours that you put in the chat. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I added 2 on communication.
Love that. So it's certainly not just for students. It is for us as adults and professionals. And like I said, my husband's New Jersey bill, like I still had that notebook for a while as well. So, and I hear that in the business world, it can be used to analyze your data around, growth and sales and making decisions. And so it's pretty crazy. But we will close there a little early, but I don't think anybody hates that. And I hope that you can use this time then to dig deeper. And hopefully that gave you a taste of all of those resources and what's possible. I want to share this one last time before you go. If you will be sure and check out that digital agenda. And as a reminder, what you'll find on here is some links around using AI in general for scaffolding, but then specifically around NotebookLM. And then the sample notebook outputs, those are all here, the sample podcast and the sample outputs I've created, just in case you want to refer back to those. So be sure to check out those links as well. But we appreciate your time. I know you're all busy people and you've been working all day and are very tired and have activities to probably get to after school. So I'll go have my chips and salsa, and you all have a great night. So thanks for joining.
If you didn't get a chance to sign in, please do
Yes,
so.
please sign in. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye, guys.